Today's guest, Russ, is the founder of LiveKit. LiveKit powers the live audio for ChatGPT. To demo LiveKit, we learn how lightning works.
And that's why lightning often strikes tall objects. Make sense?
Can you explain it to someone who's more of an idiot?
How LiveKit turned down a 20 million acquisition offer.
I left that meeting, honestly, like a bit terrified. I mean, this is like existential. Like these guys are gonna destroy me.
And how they started working with OpenAI.
I get this email and I was like, what?
We talk about how the heck you prepare to go live with a company like OpenAI.
And then I got a message from the team and they're like, we're ramping ChatGPT voice mode to all free users in 15 minutes. How do you feel about that?
Russ is a bloody legend. Enjoy the episode.
I feel very passionate about like the voice parts because it's just such an amazing way to especially learn things. It's just
I know.
incredible to just chat with it and you can ask so many dumb questions.
Yeah. And you just do automatically, right? It's like you don't even think about it. You just, oh yeah, tell me this. I mean, once you know that it's not a person who has a capacity to judge you and make you feel bad about yourself, it's freeing. You can just ask it whatever.
What have you had any like really fun ones that you've gone deep on with ChatGPT?
I've gone deep on a few. I learned about how like the sun works. I was chatting with it. I've chatted with it a bunch about religion too, but we probably shouldn't talk about that one.
Maybe it's not related, is it? I don't know.
No. I learned about a lot about lightning. Lightning is super crazy. I didn't really understand.
How does lightning work?
I think there was this one part about lightning that I didn't understand. And that was, so you have this cloud and inside this cloud is kind of like this crazy water, ice, something storm that's happening inside. And like, there's this charge being built up by like particles, I think, hitting each other and like electrons being knocked off. But what's interesting is that like there's a negative charge that is building at the bottom of the cloud. And you're like, well, I kind of don't get it then. Like if there's a negative charge that is being built up at the bottom of the cloud, why is there like this spark or this, flow of energy from the negative bottom of the cloud to the ground, right? Like I guess I always thought of grounding as like that the ground itself was negative or something. And so that there was this flow from positive to negative, but the bottom of the cloud ends up getting negatively charged. And what it does, that negative buildup of electrons at the bottom of the cloud, it pushes because likes repel, right? So it pushes the electrons and negative particles at the actual ground on, Earth. It pushes those farther into the Earth. And so the bottom of the ground ends up so the negative and the negative repel. So it pushes the electrons at the Earth into the ground deeper. And thus the surface of the Earth becomes more positively charged. And then when that builds up enough, then there's this lightning bolt that is the flow of electrons from the negative at the bottom of the cloud to the positive charge at the surface of the Earth. I think that's right. I don't know. You're gonna have to check.
Wait, let me pull it up because I feel like
you're gonna have to check me on it. But I think that's right.
I'm less checking you and more just showing off that you built this cool thing. Okay. I'll pretend I'm an idiot, which is not hard. Explain to me how lightning works, particularly the negative to positive flows. And how clouds develop this kind of static stuff, as I understand it.
Sure. Lightning happens because of the separation of charges in a thunderstorm cloud. Inside the cloud, you've got ice particles colliding. This creates a charge separation, with the top of the cloud becoming positively charged and the bottom becoming negatively charged. When this charge difference becomes large enough, it creates a giant spark, which is lightning. The negative charge at the bottom of the cloud seeks out a positive charge, usually on the ground, and that's why lightning often strikes tall objects. Make sense?
Can you explain it to someone who's more of an idiot?
Sure. Okay, imagine a cloud is like a big battery. Inside it, tiny ice bits bump around, making one part of the cloud negative and another part positive. When these charges get big enough, zap! A lightning bolt jumps from the cloud to the ground to balance things out. That zap is what we see as lightning.
Okay, wait. So it kind of leaves, the charge leaves because there's too much difference.
Exactly. When there's a big difference in charge between the cloud and the ground wants to balance it out. So the charge moves from the cloud to the ground in a big flash.
Ask it what happens to the negative particles in the ground.
What happens to the negative particles in the ground?
Great question. When the negative charge from the cloud meets the positive charge on the ground, they neutralize each other. This discharge evens out the charge difference, and that's what we see as lightning.
No, but what about the existing negative particles before the lightning bolt strikes?
Wait, what about the existing negative particles before the lightning bolt strikes?
So before lightning strikes, the ground isn't full of negative particles, it's mostly neutral. But as the cloud builds up a negative charge, it repels electrons on the ground, making the surface positively charged.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow, wait. So that's quite far away. Like, how is it able to repel before the lightning hits?
So the cloud's negative charge creates an electric field that extends all the way down to the ground. This field pushes away electrons in the ground, leaving the surface positively charged.
That's unbelievable. Cool.
I got it right.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. Well done, Russ.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well done, ChatGPT. It taught me all of that.
Okay. And so maybe we should have done the context before, but I could edit this back in. So,
yeah, you can.
We were using LiveKit there, right? LiveKit's technology.
You were, yes. So, when you tapped on that button to enter into advanced voice mode, there's an agent that was built using LiveKit's framework on the back end. It's connecting to LiveKit's cloud network, and then your phone is also connecting to LiveKit's cloud network. And then when you talk to the model, all of your audio data or voice data traveling over our network, arriving at the agent on the back end. That agent is then relaying that audio into GPT-4o. It's thinking about what you're saying. And then when the response is generated, that's going back through our agent framework, back through our cloud network to your phone, and then played out. You can kind of think of it sort of like Cloudflare for multimodal AI or media streaming.
And so from OpenAI's perspective, are they dealing with the audio, or are they is it like they're just getting kind of a transcript?
Yeah. So what's happening there is that I wonder if you could ask Advanced Voice what's happening. Anyway, no, let's not do that. It probably won't know. I don't think it's going to know.
Can you explain how LiveKit works?
Exactly. It's like a big statement.
Wait, we're on the previous question. No, wait. Forget Lightning. Can you explain how LiveKit works?
Sure. LiveKit is an open source WebRTC platform for building real-time audio and video applications. It handles all the tricky bits like low latency streaming, media synchronization, and scalability. Basically, it provides the infrastructure so developers can focus on building features, not dealing with the complexities of real-time communication.
But wait, if OpenAI are using LiveKit, do they deal with transcriptions, or they just get audio themselves and then they transcribe that, handle that?
So if OpenAI uses LiveKit, they can handle the audio streaming and then send the audio data to their servers for transcription. LiveKit would manage the real-time communication, while OpenAI would focus on processing and transcribing the audio.
Russ, are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that. That's definitely accurate. We effectively allow OpenAI to run compute wherever they want, right? And then we have servers all around the world that kind of give a user the lowest latency connection to the fiber backbone of the internet, carry their audio data to wherever OpenAI has compute, and then they take that audio data or that video data. So if you're sharing your screen or pointing your camera at something, so they take that audio visual data and they can send it into their model, and then the model generates a response. So the model can generate transcriptions, it can generate an audio response in the case of a multimodal model like GPT-4o. And so you kind of think of it as like GPT is this brain that's answering all your questions and can understand the nuances of your speech and things like that. And then LiveKit is the nervous system that carries the information to that brain and from that brain.
Yeah, and I guess it's really hard because it's big files and you've got like this constant two-way. Is that what the big challenge?
You can kind of think of it like that. I mean, the one key bit is that it's not a file. So like if it was a file, the impact of that is that's like an intermediary storage mechanism, which means it's kind of like a buffer. And so when you're talking about kind of real-time interaction, right? Like we're talking right now, there's no file intermediary between my audio coming to you and your audio coming to me, and video as well. It's kind of like a point-to-point streaming. It's not true point-to-point if you look at like network topology, but it's there's no intermediary storage happening. It's just going, my bytes are going straight through to your computer, and your bytes are coming straight through to me. In the AI use case, it's the bytes are flowing straight through to an agent that's connected to you in a similar way that we're connected. And then the agent is taking those bytes and processing them like your brain is doing right now.
This episode is brought to you by WorkOS. If you're building a dev tool, at some point, your customers are going to start asking you for enterprise features. WorkOS offers you single sign-on, skim provisioning, and audit logs out the box. WorkOS is trusted by Perplexity and Vercel, as well as Workbrew, a homebrew management startup that I recently interviewed. I just told Mike that WorkOS is the sponsor, and this is what Mike said.
Yeah, so WorkOS isn't paying me any money for this. I pay WorkOS money for this, but WorkOS is like one of the best developer tools I've like ever used. It's the documentation and the experience with building with them is so good. Like I initially was almost like, okay, this seems expensive, but then I built an integration with them in about 20 minutes that I had spent 2 days bang my head off the wall trying to build it directly with Okta. And then with WorkOS, I then have like many SSO providers like supported instead of just one. So yeah, like for me, WorkOS is one of the nicest developer experiences I've encountered in the last like 5 years, probably. And it's not surprising because a bunch of the developer team are ex-GitHub and therefore very good at their job.
Go to workos.com to learn more.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I've not done much stuff with like streaming, but I know I've had it's extremely tricky.
It's tricky. It's very tricky. It's pretty complicated, but also not. It up until recently, it was not used that much on the internet. I mean, Zoom does it, Discord does it. Netflix does a flavor of it, but it's not real time. It's, when you watch Netflix, it just buffers. You sit there and like sometimes if your internet's weak, it'll buffer for 30 seconds. What's happening there is a file intermediary in the Netflix case, and it's actually going and downloading a part of the file, and then it starts to play the video. And as you're playing the video, it's downloading more of the file and sticking that onto the data onto the back. And eventually you play through, the entire movie or TV show that you're watching with Netflix. But real time is a bit different. There is no storage or file that you're downloading. All the data is generated dynamically from my camera it's captured from my camera and my microphone in real time, and then sent over a network to you, and then reconstituted and played out through your screen or through your speakers on the other side. And so I think not a common thing that people have had to do, but now with this multimodal AI and the computer getting really smart and us building like HAL 9000 or whatever, I think streaming is going to become a much more common way that you interact with computers. So it's going to be in more places.
Yeah. And going back to the OpenAI part, could you maybe share a little bit like what like your world with LiveKit was like before I mean, also the question is how they started using you, what those conversations look like. But did that change what you were building at all?
Yeah, it definitely did. It is certainly a time, like in the history of the company, that it's very clear a few things changed, including my stress level. But it
Good stress though.
yeah, good stress for sure. Grateful for the stress, definitely. It does hurt though. Um, it's like exercise. It's like it's rewarding when you look back on it, but it definitely sucks in
Type
the
2
moment.
fun.
Yeah. And so I remember it's a funny story. I don't think I've told this story. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. I don't think I've told it yet.
Definitely an exclusive. We'll
We'll
go
make this an exclusive. Yeah. We'll have two exclusives on this show. One is actually answering questions with ChatGPT live, and then the other one will be this story. But I'll censor it a little bit. So there was a really large company. I remember. So I think it was like August 4th, 2023 or August 3rd, 2023, one of those 2 days. I think it was the 4th. And I went to this lunch for 5 hours with this really large company. And they kind of ran through this gamut of like options for me. They were like, can we buy you? Can we license your cloud product? Can we contract you to build the same thing at our company? Or can we maybe wrap your stuff and launch our own version of it to compete with you? Because we're an open source project, right? All of our stuff is open source. And so I was kind of taken aback, and I said, well, if you were going to buy us, like, how much would you buy us for? I'm just curious. And the economy was bad, and like they effectively in the end, they didn't want to tell me because they thought it would be an insulting offer, but I insisted anyway. And they said, well, we can buy you for $20 million. And I was like, well,
wow.
I mean, that's awesome. And I'm, thank you for that. But we've also raised 15. So it's not great. Just mathematically, it's not going to be great. And they're like, well, look, if you can tie what you're doing at LiveKit to Gen AI, 200 million. And I was like, one, that's kind of ridiculous you said that, but two, I no, like we're like a video conferencing live streaming infrastructure company. Like I can't tie it to Gen AI. Like I can't position it in that way. It doesn't make any sense. So I left that meeting, and I was honestly like a bit terrified because they're a big company. They're very respectable. Like I admire a lot of the stuff that they do, and so I was like, wow. I mean, this is like existential. Like these guys are gonna destroy me. Like it's time. Companies is gonna be dead. And so I'm driving home on the 880. It's a terrible highway. Never take it if you can manage that at rush hour. And then I get this email, and it's like, "Hello from OpenAI," and I was like, "What?" And so I chat with them, and we start to talk. And they wanted to build a voice interface to ChatGPT, and had been exploring options. And they'd signed up for LiveKit Cloud a few weeks before, and I didn't know because they used a personal Gmail account.
Wow.
But they ended up, building kind of the first proof of concept for voice mode on LiveKit Cloud, and got excited and convinced that it was a solid platform from a small team, and it was good software. And I guess definitely being open source and then being able to see our code helped convince them of that. But we started to have commercial discussions, and ever since we've been working with them on all of the multimodal real-time stuff. And so that's an amazing story for sure. And what's interesting is after I talked to them, I'm like, wait a sec. I do have a Gen AI story. Hey,
where's my
I'm
200 mil?
Yeah, where's my 200 mil? I'm ready to sell. No, it's
it's 400 now.
yeah, and then you know
Yeah.
that just changed the trajectory of the company. I mean, obviously I became a lot more stressed because I have so much respect for what OpenAI is doing, and I wanted to not let them down, you know, because I told them, hey, like we're going to make this work and we can scale and all of that. And that's another story too, which is kind of funny. But I'm not sure I'll tell that one on this episode. Maybe we'll save it for the next one. But yeah, like I think that in that moment when we started to work with OpenAI on voice mode, and when I tried the first prototype of it, you know, I guess it was well, yeah. I tried the first prototype. It's just funny because they had, you know, Sky's voice in there, and I tried it and I was like, man, this does sound like ScarJo. But it was not. It is not ScarJo. It wasn't. And like I know that for sure because I was, you know, there in the early days of it. But I also was like, I like this voice. It really does sound soothing. In any case, the realization, and I've said this, you know, in other conversations before, but like the realization was, okay, OpenAI is going to build AGI. AGI is a synthetic human being, right? If you take it all the way to its end, maybe there's some people who don't believe that that's going to happen, but let's just say, for at least my opinion, for talking purposes, AGI is this synthetic human being. It's a computer that can behave like, communicate with you like a human being, teach you things like we just learned about lightning, all those kind of stuff. If you have a computer that's smart, how are you going to interact with it? You're probably not going to type. You're probably not going to like use a keyboard and a mouse to interact with that computer. Like that's what you do when the computer isn't very smart, can't understand you naturally, so you have to adapt yourself to give it information so it can work for you. But when the computer is really smart and like a human, indistinguishable from a human, maybe at at the end of all of this, you're going to interact with it the way that you interact with other human beings. And the way you interact with other human beings is through your eyes and your ears and your mouth. Like you talk to other humans, you see them move. And the equivalent sensors for a computer, a human-like computer, to eyes, ears, and a mouth are cameras, microphones, and a speaker. And it just turns out that kind of what we were working on for video conferencing and live streaming can be used as the eyes, ears, and mouth of multimodal AI or like a human-like computer. It's we're basically taking the camera and the microphone and hooking those things up to the internet and allowing the data that streams out of those to be transported anywhere else in the world. And so that's what our infrastructure was designed to do, albeit for a very different use case. And now it's going to be used for this use case. And I think that this use case in particular is going to be everywhere. The future, of course, will contain humans connecting to other humans in applications. But I think the vast majority of real time is going to be humans connecting to machines, whether those machines are personal devices, whether those machines are models running in the cloud, or whether those machines are humanoid robots walking around, the earth and trying to help us in the physical world. In all those cases, you're going to interact with that computer using your natural human I/O, and yeah, we're like kind of like the wires of the nervous system in that brain analogy. The model's a brain, and we're the nervous system.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the scaling. I definitely want to ask that, but just to kind of dig in, because I remember a few years ago I got kind of like hyped around Alexa and like because I think after university there was a point where I had like really bad like pains in my arms, and like I got kind of excited about like you get tired after like you get like this pain after sitting at laptop so long.
Yeah.
And I got really into like what can you just be like really productive. And I remember just being, as I got into like looking into the Alexa ecosystem, it just got like, it's kind of just demotivating. It felt like they'd kind of abandoned it. And it was just there just wasn't much going on there. It was
Mhm.
like the kind of things were just a bit novelty, and I still use it to like set alarms and ask for the time and stuff like that. But like,
Yep.
what do you think the future could be with how we interact with how we do our work, how we live with with Gen AI stuff?
Yeah, I think that there's two kind of stages to how this progresses, in my opinion. One thing I'll say is with the Alexa example you were talking about, right? You still use it to set alarms and stuff like that. I still use Siri for the same, but both of them have been pretty bad historically. I sometimes tell people that like that's why I believe that in a lot of cases hallucination is a feature, not a bug. Because when you were interacting with Alexa like 10 years ago, right? Probably when you had one, that's when I think I got mine. And when you interact with that system, it's just this like giant expert system. It's like a ton of if else statements, right? And so
Yeah.
if you hit a branch in that tree that it can't handle, it says like, sorry, can't do that, or whatever the response is. The penalty from a UX perspective of not being able to answer a query is so high that it erodes your trust in that system, where then you just stop asking it pretty much anything. You only ask it the things that you know explicitly it can do, and you probably only know or are aware of like 5 things. It can definitely do more things, but you only know probably about 5 of those things, and that's the only thing you'll use it for, because you had some experience where you asked it for the 6th thing and it couldn't do it, and so you're just like, forget this thing, it sucks.
Yeah, and it always talks for ages when it can't do it.
That's right. Yeah, it just really drones on with the response, really very profusely apologetic. But when you talk to an LLM, right, if you even use advanced voice mode, I mean, there's almost nothing that it doesn't know something about now, but it just hallucinates an answer to you. Like you always get some kind of response to your query, whether it's correct or not, or whether it's exactly what you wanted. You get something, and the something is not, I don't know. And so you kind of almost avoid, hallucination helps you almost avoid this negative UX penalty that erodes your trust, and you'll kind of keep trying, or maybe phrase your question or your prompt a little bit differently, etc. So I think that's a really important feature. Where I think this is all going, right, with voice interfaces, and you talked about how pain in your arms, like maybe RSI or something from like typing on a keyboard a lot, etc. We have this vibe coding now, like maybe it's going to become like voice coding, but vibe coding sounds a lot better, so I don't think we'll change the term
for now. I feel like it's getting pretty. I feel like we need a new word already. It's just like inundated.
Yeah, maybe the entire just the word coding goes away, right? I think that's what ends up happening. It's just vibe. I'm vibing right now, but I think that the first stage of this, especially for creatives and people that are building stuff, is it's like the Copilot use case. So what's interesting, I was at a dinner yesterday and we were talking about this a lot, because there were the people at the dinner were all kind of working in the code gen space, or a lot of them were working in the code gen space. And one of the parts of the conversation was that you have something like Cursor today, where it's your Copilot and it's helping you write code, right? And then there's the vibe coding version of this, where you're kind of just hitting accept whatever changes it has, and kind of correcting it or trying to reprompt it if it's getting a bit lost. But you are kind of like the editor in that experience, where it's doing a lot of the mundane work, and then you're the editor hitting accept. But it's still driven by you. I think that's the key part of the relationship with the AI model today, and the way that you write software, still driven by you. There is a flip that is happening though, and I think like Replit agents is one example of this. Maybe to a degree V0 is also like this, but Devin is certainly like this, and Claude Code is like this, where you're still pair programming, but you're not the one driving. It's actually the AI that is driving. And so you're kind of sitting back, watching, supervising, making sure that it's doing the right thing, changing the right files, making the right decisions, testing it properly, all of that stuff. And so that, I think, is like, it's still a co-pilot experience. You're still supervising and, synchronously working with the AI, or looking over its shoulder. That's the first step, I think, to where things are going. And I think like all this reinforcement learning kind of verification of the results is going to help very quickly accelerate code gen and like the AI's ability to be the driver in that pair programming example or use case. Then after that comes like the full agentic experience, right? Where it goes from co-pilot to coworker, where you say, hey, you know what? I want to build this app and here's kind of how I'm thinking about it, and like go, work on it. Give me like a first draft of it, or come back with like a proof of concept. And then it goes and it starts to do its stuff. And you're going off and using your time for other things. And then it comes back and it's like, okay, I've got like an initial proof of concept here that I've put together and all that stuff. And what do you think? Like, what should we tweak? What should we refine? Let's have a meeting and sit down and talk about it. And just like you would with a human, you would do the same thing with your AI coworker, and then it'll go off and continue doing its work again and the refinement steps. So I think that's like the direction that these things are going. And I think a lot of interfaces for creatives, especially, it's going to be less important to be an engineer. And I think more product designers are going to, product design is going to become the skill to hone for a human. Kind of, I guess like a very clear example of this is if you watch like the Iron Man movies, it's the way that he, even just designs a suit in the first place, using Jarvis to do most of the mechanical work.
Yeah.
I thought you were waving your hand in front of the camera.
Oh no, I was doing the Tony Stark. He does do the kind of like stuff with his hand as well, right? Like
he does. Well, crazy story is that one of my teammates was interviewing an engineer for an engineering candidate, and they weren't blinking, and like their face was just very kind of static. And so she said, hey, do you mind like moving your hand in front of your face really quick? And just like wave your hand in front of your face. And the person just disconnected. It like just disappeared in the middle of the interview.
So what were they doing?
They were an avatar, a generated 3D, like a live video avatar.
I kind of got like a shiver when you said that. I felt like it's super creepy. You think you're talking to a human and you're talking to an avatar.
It was really weird.
Yeah. Wait,
anyway,
should we both just do it? Just to...
yeah. I'm like, wait a second. Are you asking me to like? That answer was so good that you're like asking me to like wave my hand.
Okay, wait. You did do it. I didn't have to ask you, but I've just verified. Russ has done it as well. So.
I am real. I am here. I'm a real human being.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And I guess it's like, when you're collaborating, you either do it in Slack, reviewing someone's pull requests, that sort of stuff, or probably more is just like standing behind someone and looking at their screen, right?
I think you're going to have those processes are probably still going to exist as part of like the software development lifecycle, but it's just going to be an AI that's doing a bunch of, some of the components of it or parts of it. They're certainly not going to do all of it. I think it still requires like human oversight, and ultimately like the things that we're building for other human beings. We're building for each other. So there's going to be a human in the loop somewhere.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope we still get involved, because it seems like it's going to be fun.
Have you been vibe coding at all or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, yesterday I think I had to try it. I've never used Grafana before, and I was like using it to generate like a massive dashboard, and it was like literally running out of like context doing it. It was just like,
oh wow.
And I understood absolutely zero, but I was just like, okay, well, if I can see what it's doing and then I can test that it seems to do what I need, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's actually a better experience, because I've never really enjoyed creating dashboards and stuff, like whatever it was, you just like clicking around and So if I can just say, here's what I want, just generate the code, it's just a much better experience than
Yeah,
trying
agreed.
to. Yeah, yeah. I want to hear about the about what it was like, because I mean I remember like seeing the first time I saw it was I was actually at the AI Engineer Summit, and I think Roman
Oh yeah.
from OpenAI like demoed the interruption, which I'd never seen. I remember that being like a crazy moment.
Oh yeah.
And then I also remember when it drops completely with the Scarlett Johansson stuff, but like it that must be like nightmare levels of like infrastructure that you need to just like make sure it's working. Was it just like
I was really proud of the team. So we definitely knew. I mean, OpenAI scale is insane. So like we definitely were like, okay, we need to go back, look at our system, make sure that we are architected properly to handle like the scale. And so there's a couple of folks on the team that are just insane distributed systems engineers. I don't know how we convince them to work with us, but like they're just really next level.
that's awesome.
You definitely can't vibe code the stuff that they do, and so I mean, I don't even know how you would come up with the prompt for the initial prompt, but so
Their jobs are going to be safe for a while.
yeah, we definitely made some refinements and some changes ahead of time, kind of anticipating what that scale would be. We also power voice for Character AI, and they kind of started to also deploy around the same time as voice mode, and so a little bit after, but around the same time. And so Character AI, I mean, has like insane scale as well. Most people don't. I don't know if how many people know that, but their scale is wild, and
I think Swix always posts about them, and it's like
Oh, really?
he always says like, this is like the 50th biggest website in the world that you've never heard of, and like it's just like avatars of like different anime characters
yeah,
and stuff, right?
yeah, exactly. Like AI companions and stuff like that. And so like both of them kind of ramping up at the same time was pretty nuts. And I definitely lost a lot of nights of sleep through that process. But I think what I was so proud of the team about was that like when we first launched voice mode, it was for all paid users. And it was like there was some other limiting factor to it as well. I can't remember what the limiter was, but it wasn't to every ChatGPT user, and so that was comforting to begin with. But I remember that the whole thing with Sam happened, and
that was around the same time, right?
It was around the same time, and then the day that he came back. I guess earlier that day, the team was like, you know what? I was in an interview with a candidate, and then I got a message from the team, and they're like, Russ, we're ramping ChatGPT voice mode to all free users in 15 minutes. How do you feel about that? And I was like, okay. It had been running smoothly, and we'd been doing well. So, and it's not like OpenAI was just trying to like rug pull me or anything like that. It was just they were just like, hey, like you said, it scales, Russ. You told us it scales, so like we're gonna ramp it up. We're ready to go. And so my co-founder was in the like Cayman Islands on vacation, and I already told the team like no shipping anything this week. And so this message came in the middle of that his 1 week vacation in the Cayman Islands, and so I like send this message. I like pause my interview. I'm like, hey, can I take a 5-minute pause right now? I gotta like ping the team. So I ping the team internally on Slack, and like they look at the stuff, like they look at the graphs, the Grafana charts, and they're like, yeah, we're good, we're ready to go. And so I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. So they ratchet it up, and it just scales. It's like no problems at all.
Wow.
And I was like, just team's amazing. I had nothing to do with it. But yeah, team is incredible.
Wow. If you had to like kind of, if there were any other lessons of like someone that was about to kind of onboard like a customer that's like way bigger than they'd ever worked with, like kind of any like lessons or like things that you would advise from your experience doing that?
I think my lesson is probably counterintuitive. My lesson is embrace the chaos. Here's why. So I remember I was at Twitter, in the early days. I was the second front-end engineer, second client engineer at Twitter. And that team, I think, became over 100 something eventually over the course of its lifetime. And Twitter was just terrible. Like the code, the architecture, everything was just so bad. It was like melting down constantly, like the fail whale thing, just constantly happening. And a lot of people ask like, well, why did you write it this way? Why didn't you plan for this scale? And I think there's this tendency for engineers to try to imagine and architect this like perfect system, but hitting a scaling wall or having something that you designed break is actually like a rite of passage. I think it takes way longer. It delays your go-to-market and finding product market fit so much more to try to devise a system or an architecture that would scale, and you don't even know if you need to. Like Twitter, literally, I'm not even talking about just from a software perspective, but I'm very grateful to have worked there. Like, it's an amazing company, probably the best time in my entire career, including, I am enjoying LiveKit as well, but it was such a fun time. I was an IC engineer. I was young.
Such an iconic company.
Such an iconic company, it's just so rare to be able to be a part of that, especially in the early days. So it's not like a diss on anybody, but that company literally screwed up every possible thing that there is to screw up, except they just nailed the essence or the kernel of what that product's value proposition was going to be. And they just had insane product market fit. It was so locked in that you could just afford to screw up everything. But what it taught me was that, I guess it taught me that exactly that is get the product market fit right. That's the most important thing. You can go down, you can fail, you can design the wrong system, you're going to rewrite it. Like, that's all a rite of passage that proves that you have found some semblance of product market fit, or you've built something that people want. And so now you have the honor or the privilege to be able to rewrite it. And so I think that my advice would be the learning. Yes, our system scaled and we prepped for it. That
was going to be my question.
but I guess the point is that we didn't prep for it a year in advance. We did a review. We looked at where the bottlenecks would be. And, the part of the story that I didn't tell you is that, like, yes, the OpenAI chat, voice mode scaled, but then Character AI came in and we did have an outage because there was a component of, there was one component that, like, we hadn't hit the wall of it when OpenAI started to scale, but then we hit the wall of it when Character AI started to scale, and we had to rewrite the component, and we had to, rethink about how we were doing things, and we did it very fast. My teammates did it very fast, so it's full credit to them. But that was a part of the journey too. Like, I was proud that we scaled to the certain level, but then we did hit a wall, and we had to do stuff differently to get to the next level. And that's just part of growth. It's part of, building things.
Yeah.
You have these unknown unknowns that, like, they only come about when, you get the real usage. There's another example I'll use here, which I think is a nice, kind of not a metaphor, but like an anecdote. Is I read Elon's biography, and in it they have a chapter about SpaceX, and they talk about how when they were starting SpaceX, what he told the team was, like, go to the desert out in Texas and just explode rockets as quickly as you can. And you're like, what? And the reason why is to learn about what makes rockets explode so that you can build stuff to prevent rockets from exploding. But the whole purpose is to uncover to make the unknown unknowns known. Known, I don't know, known unknowns. I don't know how to word that one, but it's to understand what makes a rock explode, so you can move as quickly as possible to put the patches in, or to build something that prevents all of these negative consequences or adversarial effects from happening. And that's I think that's like a model for how I think about things too, is go out there and like figure out what the requirements are as fast as you can, right? So that you can solve those problems. There's almost no way to envision all of the different failure modes in what you are building, especially in like a complex system, which LiveKit is. And so, yeah, I think we did it right.
Yeah, that is really cool advice. Yeah, the question I still have is just like around like the infrastructure, like if the rules are different because I kind of always felt like, I don't know, yeah, that makes sense for Twitter, but then does it make sense for like LiveKit, or like, because you're like kind of selling, like kind of almost like you talk about like the kernel, it's like almost like your kernel is like, we don't want to worry about this going down. Like,
yeah, you're totally right. So there is like it's not a total fair kind of line to draw between Twitter and LiveKit for sure, because Twitter at the end of the day is an application. And so the users that they sell to are consumers, right, that are using the product. And so they can go down, and I think users will be a little bit more forgiving and all of that. But infrastructure kind of has this expectation that it's behind the scenes, and there are people that are building on top of this infrastructure. And while the developers building on top of your infrastructure might make mistakes and go down on their end users, they definitely don't want you to go down on them, because that's something that they don't control. And so it's not quite the same thing as Twitter, and we do have to be more careful. And the stakes are also very high too for us. Like, I don't want to suggest that like we're like willy-nilly and like like 911 runs on LiveKit, and
really?
25% of 911
wow,
runs on LiveKit. And so it does have to be robust. Like, when someone's life hangs in the balance, there's definitely a lot of pressure to make sure that you've thought through some of these failure modes.
You don't want to go like full in. Is it sort of like a balance of like, you want to try to take some sort of like move?
And of course there's like also like all kinds of testing, both automated testing, manual testing, stress testing of the system. We have like simulation testing. Like there's many layers of kind of the QA process that we go through before we roll something new out. So there's also that. We're pretty careful, but we're not trying to engineer around every single possible scenario or scaling kind of wall that we may hit. I think the important part is to be able to see it coming and then be able to react appropriately before you actually just smash into that wall. And we've done that successfully, where we've seen it coming and worked around it or scaled over the wall. And then, I mentioned the Character AI one, like we definitely smashed into the wall at least once.
Yeah. And I'm sure, to be fair, like the fact that what they're building is you've got such a strong kernel that you're going to be way more reliable than them building it internally anyway. So it's like,
100%.
Yeah.
100% that's definitely true. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. Russ, I know we're coming to the end. So is there anything that you wanted to shout out about LiveKit or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we're building cool stuff. Like, I think the developers out there are building even cooler things using the product and the infrastructure. It's all fully open source, so you can build it, deploy it yourself, host everything, or you can use LiveKit Cloud, where we make it a lot easier and save you some time, and you can focus on your product. I would love to chat with anyone out there that is building with LiveKit or thinking about it, and see if I can be helpful. So find me find me on X. I always want to call it Twitter, but yeah, find me on X, x.com/DSA, right to left on your keyboard, 3 letters. Helps to have been an early employee.
I was about to ask you. You must have a good. Yeah. That's wicked.
I could tell you a funny story in the last minute if you want.
Let's hear it.
Back in the day, it was total Wild West at the company, and we had we could access the production database, and so Sierra Nevada, the beer company, they didn't have like a great username. I don't know what it was. It was like _ Sierra Nevada
really
something,
bad.
and 123. I don't know what it was, but one of my coworkers, I guess, I used to pair program with him a lot. He went into the database, and the person who had Sierra Nevada, he like changed their username to something, and then he gave Sierra Nevada like @Sierra Nevada, and then a week or something later, this random guy comes in through the elevator to the office, and he's just got like 10 in the, like with like this dolly, and he's got 10 boxes, like giant 24 packs of Sierra Nevada beer, and he's like, is this person here? And like we're like, yeah, he's right here. And then like this guy wheels in, he's like, this is a thank you from Sierra Nevada, and like drops it off in the office.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
It was pretty funny.
That's incredible. Have you ever had the like people trying to get hold of your Twitter handle? Like I know they do like the, I don't know if you ever listened to Darknet Diaries. There's a whole episode about people getting like sent pizza like constantly as like a threat. Like, they'll just order pizza to your house as like a attack until you give up the name.
Oh, I've never had anybody go to those kinds of lengths, but when I first joined the company, one of the things that they allowed you to do was you could choose your own username. As long as it had been inactive for 6 months, they would change it. And so, it was early days. And so I was the only person, I don't know why, in the cohort. I think I was like the 75th or 80th employee or something. I was the only person who just started to scan all of the single letter usernames, and @U was open, and so was @X. I should have taken @X. I mean, I could have sold that to Elon, but maybe. But @U was open, and so I tried @U, and I just got so much spam from people that did not know how to @mention people on Twitter. So it was like, hey, whatever, and they would write their username without the @ symbol and then say @U. And so my notifications were just destroyed with that name. So then I'm like, I need to change it to something else. Okay, I'll change it to my last name. I'll be @DSA.
Yeah.
And @DSA collides with 2 groups. One is the Down Syndrome Association. And so that one, maybe I would give up my username to. But the other one is the Democratic Socialists of America. And that DSA has been pinging me for like 10 years, like trying to get DSA from me.
Really?
It's like Bernie Sanders folks and stuff. I don't talk politics, but and I have nothing against them, but they definitely have been trying to get my username.
Just give it to the Down syndrome association if you're gonna
close to my heart for sure. Definitely.
Russ, that was super fun.
Yeah, man, it was
really, really awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, everyone.